morning, people. How you going? So I'll just wait a couple of minutes to see when people get the notification to come in, and we'll have a bit of a chat. So it's been a pretty busy, I suppose, troll attack in one way, but not on this page. But I just wanted to talk about some of the stuff that the trolls are spouting, and you've got the appearance of LNP trolls and One Nation trolls out there at the moment. Right, so it was brought to my attention that Malcolm Roberts' page was putting up an article about misinformation around them supporting the cashless debit card. I actually hadn't visited the page until last night, and the trolling was horrendous, right? I don't recommend going to that article or engaging, but if you do, if you're on different pages and you see somebody going, oh, I think the card's a good idea, right, I recommend putting, sharing our information and putting it there. Hi, Ruth, it's still morning in Queensland, sorry. And just putting the information on the thread and leave. Don't engage with the trolls, don't fight with them. Some of them are paid trolls. They will just say whatever to try and rile you up. They will try and say nasty stuff to try and get at you, right? We had two particular trolls. One is still biting today on the Malcolm Roberts page, and like Amanda put up a lot of information. They can't get around their voting the way that they voted, okay, and they can't hide behind this amendment that got voted down. It was an amendment, not the bill. They voted for the bill and they can't get around that. That's a fact. I was attacked by somebody because they're a cancer survivor and they got all their treatments for free and they've never had to do this and they've never had to do that and they've never had to go without. Whereas just in the last 2 weeks, I've had a person who was bedridden, unable to buy her heart meds and get them delivered to her house, and yet she's taken a photograph of the neighbour getting home delivery, but because she's on the cashless debit card, the pharmacy refused to take the payment over the phone, and she had to wait till she could hobble into the chemist to pick up the stuff and pay for it over the counter. Right? I had another lady who was in quarantine, wasn't able and hasn't been able to the last 2 years anyway, buy most of the meds that she needs online in the Hervey Bay region. Right? These are not fakes. These people that are struggling to be able to work around the bloody system that they're captured onto. But these trolls, oh no, that's not true, you're lying. I was like, well, I listen to card holders any day, right, than this unknown name troll that I've never come across, that I don't know, that's spouting all this rubbish, okay? So just be aware when you go onto different pages, don't get into the fights with them. Drop the information and leave, right? Some of them are downright nasty and a bit sick in the head. One targeted SN7, right? And I will look at her Twitters for, because it was a really bastardly attack. It really was. And, the information that we left on the page, and Amanda at Saint07 had done most of the work before I even got there, right? And other people had posted stuff from our pages. So I didn't see the point of jumping in, but I made the mistake of commenting on one, and then one of the trolls targeted me as well, and they're against Labor, of course, and calling us Labor stooges, of course. Well, we're not Labor stooges. We don't actually belong to political parties, but the only way we're going to get rid of this card is to vote Labor. That's the way the cookie crumbles. That's the way the chips have fallen, right? That is it. That's not our doing. That's the way this has come down, So it's like, it's going to be a bumpy road. Once they call that election, the trolls are going to come out of the woodwork. Remember, Saturday is troll day. You'll see a lot of them out on a Saturday. We don't know why, but we've noticed this. Saturday's troll day, okay? And for any of our mods out there, if they come on the pages, you know what to do. Bye. We're not having trolls on the pages. for the simple reason is myself and our team and you guys that support us don't need them. Don't need the crap that they bring with them, okay? But, you know, to be targeted in such a way that we get targeted, I get sick of it, do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's just ridiculous what's going on. So I wanted to bring attention to some of the stuff. Like, for instance, Amanda was attacked last night really badly by the Malcolm Roberts page. Malcolm Roberts, do you not know the Facebook rules? You're responsible for those attacks, by the way, those words on those pages, you know, just as much as we are on our pages, except for we don't do what your trolls do, okay? We don't go out of our way to attack people and single them out. It's disgusting what happened I saw last night, you know what I mean? You know, so Amanda was astroturfed last night. If you don't know what that means, she was astroturfed as a pedophile supporter. Again, by Malcolm Roberts' Facebook page. Despite, she's posted it on her Twitter, because this is a huge issue in communities, right? Now, I'm going to say it straight up, and I need a warning here. I've spoken to elders in the past, in the East Kimberley, right? White cashed up minors for favours to the kids that are on, you know, the parents on the cashier's debit card. The kids couldn't do what their mates were doing, so the white miners were targeting them. Do you know what I mean? Now, I know that causes a load of, you know, a load more trouble. But the card, how can I say it? And I've said it before. As a survivor of a sexual assault, one of the things that you lose when that assault occurs is control, autonomy, your soul, yourself, you know. And it's the one thing that your perpetrator gets a hold of. This card does more harm than good to people, all people. But so many people that are on the card have been survivors of such attacks. Financial abuse, sexual abuse. And I see it as a direct abuse to subject people to that kind of abuse. All over again, someone else has got control. It has an effect. You know what I mean? It's Twiggy Forrest came out on the ABC nearly 3 years ago or so. The card will stop men being pedophiles. Rubbish. Ironically enough, the people that were charged in the communities, right, were politicians' relations from the LNP. You know what I mean? And things like that. It's sickening, and it really does drive me nuts that these trolls will zoom in on something, trying to upset somebody, trying to accuse them of being pedo lovers or whatever. No, we're just fighting for people's rights here, Australians' rights. The right to be covered under the rule of law and non-discrimination. The right to have your payments protected under the Protections of Payments Act. The right to privacy, the right to autonomy, self-determination, your statutory rights, the right to remain silent and non-disclosure, right? Human rights, Article 9, the rights of the child, the rights to Social Security, the rights to a private life, the rights to be able to engage in community and be a part of community, you know what I mean? Not be excluded, not be abused, not be branded, okay? And not be stigmatized and segregated from your community, or, you know, a list of, you know, being put in a separate class as though we are the underclass third-party citizens, but we don't have any rights under law. We're not protected against anything that the private company does, and when they fail to pay rents on time or they fail to pay bills, you know, the financial losses, the the emotional stress, the damage that's caused, they're not responsible for, they take no responsibility for, right? You're just left to deal with it. That's not good enough. That is not good enough, right? You know, because, yeah, Pammy's saying here people need to start talking to small businesses too. So the government will say that the card will work anywhere where business has EFTPOS. That's not exactly true. There's many times where the card declines for no reason in a business that is a non-banned business. You know, one of our people moved towns in South Australia. She couldn't buy milk, ice cream or anything. She couldn't buy anything from the local deli around the corner, even though they had EFTPOS. The card declined. You know what I mean? Another person couldn't buy bras at Bryce and things in Ipswich because the card came up blocked. The card declines, and we know that from the evaluation, 840,000 declines of non-banned products like rent, clothing, shoes, food, all declined for no good reason on 13,000 people that had the card. Do you know what I mean? At the time when that evaluation was done, 840,000 card declines. You know, and no reasoning for it, but leaving people in the lurch, leaving people unable to access food or pay a bill, leaving people to incur fees and fines for not having the bills paid, leaving people to be evicted or have their credit rating and their rental histories completely destroyed, and in some cases leaving people bankrupt. And Indu goes, it's not our responsibility, nothing to do with us. And when money goes missing, it's extremely difficult for people to prove that there's something gone wrong that they didn't do, or maybe this happened, or maybe that happened, or we might look into it. It could take 6 weeks, you know. A lot of the cases they don't look into. A lot of people have been ripped off a hell of a lot of money over the course of the last 6 years. You know, and it's just ridiculous what's going on. I don't really care if Malcolm Roberts doesn't care to read legislation. That's on him. But his job, he's getting paid a very high sum to read legislation before voting on it. It's not my responsibility to make sure he oversees every word of it, but he obviously has not. And that's their problem, not ours. Okay? It's just not, you know, they won't accept that people with disabilities are on the card. They're still sticking by that. Do you know what I mean? Which is ridiculous, because there's over 1,000 people on the disability support pension on the cashless debit card, and 300 odd, you know, carers on the cashless debit card, and everybody over the age of 35, as Malcolm Roberts and Pauline Hanson put it, it's actually over the age of 36 for Hinkler, right? They're claiming that everybody volunteered for it. Now, if you're a cashless debit card holder in Kununurra, Ceduna, East Kimberley, and Northern Territory and Cape York, and you're hearing this, please let me know in the comments, right? Or send me messages to let me know that, you know, according to One Nation, you all volunteered for the card in, you know, everybody in Kalgoorlie in 2018, and everybody in Ceduna and everybody in Kununurra over the age of 36. Apparently you all volunteered for your card, right? I know for a fact you didn't. I know that you were mandated onto it and that you had no choice, and it rolled out across your region by postcode, and everybody who was on payments, on the trigger payments, got it. You know what I mean? I can't do anything about my internet provider. It's NBN. Okay. Yeah, so on my end, I'm looking clear. I'm not getting any breakups, so normally if there's an internet issue, I can see it on this end too, and I'm not seeing it. So maybe it's your end, whoever's having problems. You know, that's another thing from the LNP government that they completely screwed up, was the NBN. We all have to put up with substandard, last in the world speeds, you know what I mean? So, yeah, so Justine Elliott has just put up an article today, and I'm just going to her page now because I like to be able to see things right in front of me. So she's just posted 2022, the year we scrapped the cool cashless card, right? And she's got her picture up of us where she's wearing one of our shirts, which I was very happy to send to her, you know what I mean? But it still doesn't make me a member of the Labor Party, which I'm not. Okay? I'm still, you know, but of course I'm going to support the party that's going to scrap the card. Simple as that. Greens have never stopped fighting against it, right? And, you know, their policy is no cashless debit card, no income management. And Labor are standing up saying they'll scrap it. What more do people want? Australian progressives have it in their policy platform to scrap the card. All right? And of course, as soon as we got people, you know, Justine put her article up and straight away out come the trolls. Oh, you know, why would you want to stop the cashless debit card? Well, duh. And, you know, straight away, this guy was like, I noticed he's gone, actually. I replied to him because of the comment that he made. He was talking about, oh, he's removed his comment. He was talking about branding everybody as drunk, you know, about people going and buying cigarettes and everybody he sees at the pub are all on the dole, well, not on the dole, but on payments. You know, this great big generalisation. And I came back at him. Oh no, here's his comment. I'll read his comment. Okay. And he was responding to Helen. He goes, sounds like these people that you mentioned are extreme cases, when she was talking about other things that have happened to other people. For people like you, I've mentioned there should be policies in place to help out with this type of stuff. But the majority, I don't see an issue with the card. So I responded to him, right? And this is how I responded to him. Do you support Australians being sold to a private company for profits? Removal of the legal protections, consumer, statutory, privacy and autonomy rights. Breaching of Article 9 under the UNCHR, thus segregating people outside of government at the mercy of a private corporation that owns and controls 80% of the income, contracted without consent. I said, so you think this would be good for 6 million Aussies, taxpayers of which we are all paying it all, do you know what I mean? Whilst keeping the boot down on our youth, students, casual workers, disabled, carers, pensioners, etc. Not to mention the cost of the economy, with money being fed to multinationals and not circulating in non-LNP One Nation aligned businesses, farmers, markets, etc. Okay? So Leanne Richardson says here, she commented on Anne Ruston's page and had a woman tell her, for the people who volunteered to have it. The arrogance and the ignorance of these people, because that's what Anne Ruston's running with now. Oh, but people volunteered for it. I think of the last Senate estimates, there was 9 volunteers. 9. Out of over 15,000 people on cards, there was 9 volunteers. Okay? 9. So the other 14,990 something people definitely didn't volunteer. But they'll try anything, you know. So people have, oh, he's just a troll because he's been given the information now. Hang on, I've just, so now we know that this David Fisher is a troll completely because he's been given ample information on Justine Elliott's page. He says, well, there's also many reasons to keep it. And I said, so selling Aussies for profits is not a good enough reason to get rid of it. Are you a vested interest? You know, because I swear some of these people are, and they just use fake accounts. We used to get trolled by Hindu people all the time and all sorts. I'm just reading comments here. So Melissa started asking Pauline about the card and saying how families are struggling. A few times asking questions before there was a response by Pauline's team, but not directly to you, Melissa. But in the post saying, watch out for misinformation about the CDC and how they voted against it, but we are seeing different. Oh, see, they voted for an amendment. They voted against an amendment, which is not the bill. It was an amendment. When bills go up, everybody puts in their amendments. Then they get, well, they do what's called divisions, where the amendments are voted on, and some get up and some don't get up. But at the end of the day, when you get to the final third reading of the bill, there is a final vote on the bill. So we've posted that evidence here from Parliament, right, that shows the third reading of the bill and it being passed, being agreed to, right? And it clearly says ayes 34, noes 33. And when you look in the ayes 34, Pauline Hanson and Malcolm Roberts are there, okay? So they can't dispute that. They can cling to their amendment, which was regarding trying to exclude pensioners, DVA and people with disabilities, all right? However, people with disabilities are already on the card. So they weren't... My opinion is to Malcolm Roberts and Pauline Hanson, why did you not demand that the legislation that sets down age pensioners as a restrictable payment be removed from the bill? If you were serious about protecting age pensioners, this was the first time the bill had been presented with age pensioners mentioned in it, other than a voluntary situation. This is a mandated restrictable payment, all right? Especially in the FRC, where it's mandated, they don't get an option. It's not voluntary. So if they really felt that strongly about it, instead of playing word salad and political games, why didn't Pauline bring a motion or an amendment to strip that out of the bill? Okay, that would have been the thing, but they didn't. They allowed it to stay in the bill, and at the end of the third reading, they passed it through with LNP and with Sterling Griff in the Senate. Even though he ran away from the Senate, they still passed it through. Okay, if Pauline and Malcolm had not voted for it that night, it would have been dead. It would have been finished. And the people in the Cape York, the aged pensioners, would not be on the cashless debit card to the day they die, right? Because if this rolls out nationally, that's what will happen to those people. People who are on disability, right? People who are on age pension, it's a life sentence. And for their carers as well. You know, what's really annoying me is how many people cannot seem to understand, or they can't get around the fact. Selling people to a private company for a profit, right? Why is that acceptable in so many people's minds, or do they not understand? $13,000 to set up the card in your name without your consent. If your bank set up a card in your name, right, without your consent, that is identity theft and it's fraud. Okay? It also breaches Section B12 of the Consumer Act, which is where your consumer rights are removed as a cardholder, because Indu's protected from breaching that, right? So you've got no comeback on that, and they'll just say it's voluntary. Because, you know, in some cases, with the transition in the Northern Territory from Basics card to cashless debit card, they've made that voluntary. But out of 23,000 they've tried to get on at the moment, they've got about 1,500. It's going a lot slower than they thought. If the original bill had gone through that hadn't been amended in the way that it was at the last minute, which was the way it got through thanks to Centre Alliance, then if it had gone through, all age pensioners would have been on it in the Northern Territory, because on the Northern Territory, age pensioners are on it on the Basics card, and they would have just been transitioned straight over. The reason why Labor and the Greens did not vote that amendment to so-called protect the pensioners and that, and people with disabilities, people with disabilities were already on it. And despite all their little mentions, there's no speak of taking those people off of it. All right? Labor and Greens were there that night along with the final vote with Jackie Lambie and Rex Patrick to stop the card, to stop the whole program. Not let it pass through with little tweaks here and little tweaks there and further divisions and pensioners or this or that. Get rid of the whole bloody thing. That's what they want. It's time. It's got to go. It's got to go. Right? And it's not mine. Right? But it is there in living colour. And I suggest people save that picture that I put up. I took it directly off the Parliament site. I added the link to that picture as well, so you can go and check it out for yourselves. And when they come up and say, but we didn't vote to put pensioners on it, but you did, because you let it pass with the legislation intact. And the result is now there is age pensioners on the card. And the last stats I heard, 5 of those age pensioners are over the age of 75. Right? Yeah. Right, so anyway, what can I say? And Malcolm's trying to say, I don't support the cashless debit card for pensioners or people with disabilities. But they've voted it through since 2017, right? Continuously, which has put more and more people on the disability support pension on it. Julie Hard is anyone in Victoria on the cashless debit card? Yes, but they've moved there, okay? So we do have a few people floating around that live in Victoria that are on the card. Because wherever you're living, if you get put on the card in a trial area and then you move, it goes with you, unless you can fight really hard to get off of it. So we still do have a lot of people. 40% of the people that are on the cashless debit card live outside trial regions. So they're not in the regions. I won't forget a snide remark that Lou O'Brien's staffer said to me when I said about people living outside the regions. I was trying to get a meeting with Lou O'Brien, but that's not possible. And she's really snide and said, well, how come they're allowed to move? You know what I mean? As if people forced on the cashless debit card are not allowed to move out of their regions. I found that quite offensive, you know. So, yeah. But, yeah, so be ready for trolls. They're going to come. They're going to come in their troll. We will delete and block. Yeah. It does your mental health in. Don't engage. Drop the information and leave. Don't argue with them. Don't get frustrated with them. Screenshot them if they slander you. Right? For all purposes. And there are ways that if you feel you're being attacked personally and slandered and defamed, right, you can report the comments to Facebook and to this new, you can really get them in a lot of trouble. So, you know, screenshot everything for your own records. But I suggest drop your information and leave, okay? Don't engage as much as possible. Don't fight with these people. Don't waste your energy, right? Instead, save your energy for talking to people face-to-face out in the public. Because, you know, that way you'll know by body language straight away whether you're dealing with somebody who's going to listen to you or not, right? And you can walk away straight away. Whereas, you know, somebody online could be anybody online. We know that, you know what I mean? So, yeah. All right, well, I'll leave it at that for now. I just thought I'd come in and we discuss these trolls and what they do and how they, no matter, I mean, you get people like this David Fisher. 20 people will give him the information. He'll still carry on. I had one here. What's wrong with the cashless card? Most people, well, who's calling it the cashless card anyway? You know, and this was one I had to go back at. What's wrong? Noah Grizzard. What's wrong with the cashless card? Most people spend these payments on drugs, alcohol, and gambling and cigarettes. 50% of the people I talk to at the pub and benefits, right? So I said to this person, cigarettes are not banned on the card, so let's put that one to bed straight away. And just because you see adults in the pub having a drink does not mean you can brand 6 million Aussies drunks. All right? It's not illegal if you're over 18 years of age to go to the pub and have a beer. It doesn't matter the income source. The idea of Social Security is so that you can actually take part in society and support jobs by being able to spend your money in the community, right? services are needed for the people that have addictions and have troubles, not cashless debit cards. There's a big difference, okay? So, and it makes me wonder, somebody jumped in and said, well, where are your statistics? How often do you go to the pub? Maybe it's time to ban alcohol, cigarettes and pokies rather than punish the vulnerable. Oh, God, the government couldn't handle going without taxes, you know what I mean? No cashless debit card means you just jumped in. You've got people living all over the country, New South Wales, Tasmania, that are on the card. That's why I said 40% of people on the card live outside the trial areas. They're everywhere. They're scattered all over the country. People from the Bundaberg, Hervey Bay region are all over Queensland and Brisbane. They're scattered through New South Wales, South Australia, the works, same with other places. So, but I ended up, I've answered that guy once, and I've answered the other try once, and that's it. Stella Bell, what business is it of anyone how people spend their money? Control freaks, absolutely. And a lot of these trolls feel that it's my tax dollars, and this comes from Pauline's rhetoric as well, but it's taxpayers' money, and welfare recipients need to be responsible to the taxpayers. No, Pauline, no, we're all taxpayers. And there's no way I'm kissing the feet of some arsehole that has disrespect for me just because I'm on a payment, who treats me as a subhuman, that can go jump. That is never going to happen. I'm never going to kiss the feet of somebody who thinks that they're better than me just because they've been fortunate enough to have health and a job. My life didn't work out that way. And I was always brought up, never, ever, ever look down on somebody else because of whatever's going on for them. Do you know what I mean? But control freaks. It makes me wonder, if they're going to come online and tell us what to do, what are they like at home? They obviously believe in financial control, which is domestic violence. I have a whole different view. Now, I'm not going to go into politics for my own mental health and sanity. But my own personal view, if I was a social services minister, the first thing I would do was individualise payments. And I would raise the rate instantly, properly, to what it's supposed to be, right? But I would individualise payments straight away so that nobody is beholden to somebody else. So in respect for a marriage or disabled people being in a partnership, right, they have their own payment that is not affected by the other person's income or assets or anything, right? It is their own income. This takes away the gender difference. This creates autonomy and safety within the home for either partner, because whichever partner's getting their own payment. It's not a case of, your disability support pension goes down to $100 because it's up to your partner to pay all the bills, right? Because you get that resentment from the partner that's doing all the work, right? Because they're paying all the bills, and then the domestic violence situation starts and the disrespect. All right, I went through it myself with, mental abuse and all the sniping and the snarking and all the, you don't work and I work, and oh my God, and you would take away a lot of domestic violence situations if a person is in control of their own money and they have their own payment, and it's not impacted by another person's, by their living arrangements or by the other person's income or assets. It's not fair. I'm seeing older people, right, impacted when the hubby or the wife, their parents are dying and they get an inheritance, and then the other partner's losing their pension or losing their job seeker payment completely and have no income, not even a healthcare card, because their partner's family have passed on and they've got an inheritance. I think that's wrong. Not about being greedy, because we've been There is no more 1950s, your husband will provide for you without complaints. Not like my dad. My dad did everything for my mum, and he worked. My mum worked too until she got too sick to work. And then my dad came home from work and looked after my mum. And he never, ever complained, because that 1940s, 1950s British Army mentality of he was the provider and that was his job is gone. Men don't think that way. Men look at a person and go, oh, what do you do for a living? What can you bring financially to the relationship? Well, you're no good if you can't help with income to buy a house. And you're no good. Yeah, we're too individualised, right? Too separated in that level, but to try and keep an archaic social security system that still is on the basis that your partner will provide for you and look after you. It was like the sexist attitude I had when I settled my compensation claim with General Motors Holdens. Right, I got 1/3 of my payment based on you'll be married and have a husband by the time you're 30 to support you. That didn't happen. By the time I was 30, I was in a relationship with a miserable guy who didn't understand about being in a partnership in the first place, and my pension was cut down to $134 a fortnight, and he was not happy about it. He was not happy about having to pay the majority of the bills and food and everything like that. You know, so I would individualise payments straight away, and I would protect payments from being, from people being in a situation of it's dependent on. I mean, yeah, we don't live life like we did in the 40s and 50s. You know, simple as that. There would be a lot of changes. And there would be help for people that were over the threshold but not over the poverty line, so to speak. You know, so I think there's a lot of people out there where their partner earns $10 above the threshold and they don't qualify for any benefits. That leaves a partner completely at the mercy of the other partner with no income whatsoever, right? I think there needs to be some sort of provision for people that are in that case, like a buffer, you know what I mean? So that when you really do hit a certain cut-off point in wages, then you don't qualify equally. You don't qualify equally. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's me. Somebody here is saying about a universal payment for all. Universal basic income has its good side if it was used properly, if it was entrenched in law in such a way that a party couldn't abuse it and couldn't tie mutual obligations to it, right? And that it was completely fair for everybody that got it, because it would take a lot of pressure off of a lot of families to know that they had a base amount every month to be able to pay all of their bills and food, their basics. And then if they wanted to go out and earn more, they could. And but the downside is it's open to being controlled. It can be used as a tool to control people. That's the only thing I worry about, is if you had the people like the LNP in charge, they'd have everybody on a cashless debit card, they'd have everybody controlled. And when the right wing gets hold of things and controls them, it doesn't end well for the populace. It's been done before, right? And yeah, so, you know, yeah, I mean, it would be really nice for us to be able to get into that future where corporate greed and everything didn't exist. But unfortunately, we've got to go through that pain of getting rid of this. And I don't, you know, and a lot of people are still going to be hungry all the way through. Yeah, so, and the only other thing I've got to say, and it's just popped into my head. How can Indu staff consider lawn mowing and garden maintenance a luxury? So I had a card holder, it's happened twice to her in Kalgoorlie. The business is a legitimate business, right? It is, but he doesn't take cash payment or card payment. He takes transfer, bank transfer directly into his account, right? Not, you know, so there's two businesses. She's on her second one so far because she had to borrow money last time because Indu wouldn't allow her to transfer from her account to his account. they were complaining about the cost. Well, she's got quite a big area of land that needs to be cleared. She's at a risk. She's going through an at-risk pregnancy, and she's not to do this sort of stuff. So she got another guy in this time, because last time she had to borrow money off of her family to pay him because Indu wouldn't allow it. This time they've told her that lawn mowing and garden maintenance is a luxury, even though it's a legitimate business doing it, and that she should be doing it herself, even though she's been told medically, no, you're not to be doing that. You know what I mean? I don't do my own lawns. I'm very lucky. A friend of mine comes all the way from Hervey Bay about every 3 weeks, and he mows my lawns for me. I can't do it. I physically can't do it. And to do my little tiny yard would be probably $60 or more a time. I can't afford it. All right? But it's not a luxury. It's in your bloody lease. You can be evicted from your property if you don't mow the lawns. You can be evicted from government property if you don't mow the lawns and look after the garden. Right? So for Indu staff to start pulling that stunt of, oh no, garden maintenance and lawn mowing is a luxury, don't do it, don't pay for it, we can't help you, we're not going to let you have funds to pay for it, unless it's someone like Jim's Mowing, which is all approved, of course, but Jim's Mowing is hugely expensive. I can remember going back over a decade, and the property I lived in, which was a housing trust house, had a huge backyard in South Australia, right? I could pay a local person, I'm going back 15 years or more, I could pay a local person $20 or $30 to do my quarter-acre block. That's what it was, right? But Jim's Mowing was $108. I was a single mum on a disability support pension. I couldn't afford that kind of money. I can remember going out there with the snippers and just cutting down the thistle weeds as best as I could, you know what I mean? To try and help it, you know. But to turn around and say it's a luxury, and as Phoenix has just pointed out the obvious, it's also a fire hazard. You know? So, yeah. And vermin can infest, and snakes, of course. Yep. So there's all these safety issues. I'm sick of Indu interfering in people's basic living. You know, access to being able to access medicines. You can't order online for the stuff you need. You can't get it delivered. If you're in full isolation and you can't transfer money back to your own account so you can send it to your relatives to be able to drop stuff off to you, oh no. But you can send your whole payment to another person's account for them to manage it for you. It's like, no. All right. It's just getting beyond a joke how much they're stuffing people around. So lawns are now a luxury, right? And if you get stuck in isolation and you don't have enough cash, too bad, all right? And if you're a heart patient and you've just moved towns and they don't do the same as they did in the other town, they won't deliver the meds and they won't let you pay for them over the phone. You just have to go without until you can get to the chemist, even though you're supposed to be in bed for 6 weeks. Do you know? It's just rubbish what they're doing to people. But anyway, if you're a card holder and you've got issues and you've had some of these problems, don't hesitate, all right? If you don't want to publish stuff here, send us an email to our contact section on our webpage, www.thesayno7.com. All right, and we've got a survey on there, and you can send us your stories, and if you want, we can talk about them anonymously, or we can not talk about them, but at least send us your stories. Do you know what I mean? So people here saying, where Helen Harrington, where you live, you get a fine if you don't keep your lawn short over summer. Yep. You know, I got quotes. Phoenix has got quotes from mowing last week. They range from $90 to $130 per fortnight. I mean, people on benefits can't afford that at all. Guy doing someone else's lawns was very understanding of my situation. He'll do it for $50 a fortnight, but he only takes bank transfer. Yep, and that was what the situation is with the other lady, and Indu won't let her pay. They won't let her pay. And she's gone, this is the second business that's been like that for her. You know, this is, yeah, it's got to go. It's got to go. And then you get these trolls saying, they're calling me a liar, and they're saying that what I'm saying is not true. And it's like, well, I believe the card holders over everybody else. I'm the one on the phone with them, not some troll who's just coming in to try and prop up their favourite person or whatever, and getting paid on a Saturday to be a big mouth. Do you know what I mean? I've got no reason to lie, and Amanda and I, we publish all of the information, all of the reports, all of the facts, and that's it, in living colour and black and white. And card holders have no reason to lie, especially when they're the ones suffering. You know, and they're going through the stress. So, anyway, I'm going to go. I'll leave it at that, and we'll talk again later. As I said, if you encounter the trolls, screenshot if they get too much for you. Just drop the information and leave. Don't engage. Don't, because I can tell you now, they can blow your blood pressure through the roof. Trust me. And no, I do look flushed. That's because I don't have air conditioning where I live, and it is hot today. It is really hot today and really humid. I don't know what the temperature is going to be, but it's 30s or something, and I don't have air conditioning, so I will just get redder. If I have to move, and my face will go red or purple, you know what I mean? That's me. And yes, for Ron, when he comes on, I have had my blood pressure tablets. Anyway, guys, you take care. And we'll talk later. All right, see ya.